Donald Trump dealt a body blow to our real foreign enemy this week. He began the systemic collapse of the British forever war racket. He forced the Supreme Court to support American presidential leadership, and New York City might once again become a Republican town. Now, you might believe these are all unrelated events which have nothing to do with the modern British Empire, but they're not. Trump is taking our nation back. It's mostly been in British imperial hands since the end of World War II. And this week, Trump just might have delivered a fatal blow to the forces of empire. I'm Barbara Boyd, and for over 50 years, I've tracked the British imperial effort to retake the United States, not by force, but by subversion, control of our finances and our culture. Here's what we're breaking down today. First, how Trump's peace deals for the Middle East, the Ukraine war, and the Congo are remaking the world. Second, we'll show the Supreme Court's recognition of presidential leadership is a major blow to the British-driven judicial insurrection, which has hobbled Trump's presidency and shredded our Constitution. And finally, the shock New York City mayoral race. I'm going to show you that even American socialism is a British ideological import and what we can do to rescue our cities. Stick around, because by the end of the video, you'll see this week's biggest stories in a whole new light. Let's go. First, I have to tell you a bit of shocking history. In his 1887 will, Cecil Rhodes, one of the founders of the modern British financial empire, planned out how secret societies devoted to the empire would control the world. Chief among his goals, which were translated into official British policy ever since, was, I quote, reclaiming the United States as an integral part of the British Empire. Not with armies, but by infiltrating our financial system, rewriting our history, and degrading our education. The goal? To make the U.S. an extension of the British Empire using free trade, open borders, and cultural subversion. After World War II, Winston Churchill convinced Harry Truman that America's destiny also lay in policing the world for British imperial goals. That's the founding of the modern forever war racket. Donald Trump is finally ending it. Over the last week, Trump destroyed Iran's nuclear weapons capacity and then promptly negotiated a peace. As opposed to what many think, he got Netanyahu under control, not the other way around, and his next steps involve a settlement in Gaza and an overall economic development plan for the entire Middle East. On Tuesday, he told the Europeans at NATO to handle their own defense. There's no reason for Americans to do that, and it has been bankrupting us, although we've been doing it since World War II. On Friday, he got a peace agreement in the decades-long British-instigated war between Rwanda and the Congo, and he took fresh steps toward peace in the British-instigated war in Ukraine. So now the real story of Trump's relentless drive for peace comes into bold view. His devastating and bloodless strike on Iran's nuclear facilities and bludgeoning of Netanyahu and Iran to peace avoided another catastrophic forever war. They had that one planned. For the first time in a long time, the heroes in this story were American air crews and military planners. Now, until the end of its mandate in 1948, the British Empire controlled what is now Israel and most of the Middle East. It authored the idea for constant religious warfare as the means to prevent national states from emerging there while controlling the area's vast oil and mineral resources. Islamist cults like the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas all have their roots in British counterinsurgency manuals. So does revisionist Zionism. British Petroleum ran the Shah in Iran, and then British intelligence overthrew him and installed the mullahs. Now Trump, he says he wants everybody to build, to engage in trade and economic development. He has left those who profit from wars and chaos stunned and disorganized. He is using the momentum generated this week to insist that the Ukraine war also has to end. He says he will speak with President Putin very soon. Friday, he also settled the war between Rwanda and the Congo, which dates from the 1990s under British intelligence sponsorship. It has killed millions. That war is principally about the Congo's rich mineral resources, chiefly coltan. Coltan is essential for production of smartphones, electric vehicles, and other new technologies. Rwanda's warlord, Paul Kagame, is a longtime British asset. Trump settled the war and was rewarded with access to the coltan. So this president is reshaping the world and bringing the forever wars to an end as promised. But all of this also is helping to rebuild our own economy. Now, Trump also forced the courts into lines this week, and they have become a British insurgency weapon. The Supreme Court decision on Friday, ending an insurrection in the lower federal courts against this president's agenda, also struck a blow against British subversion. Our Constitution gives the president vast power to implement his agenda. That's a good thing. It opens the door to true leadership. But the nation's law schools have been brainwashed, and an entire generation of lawyers believe that presidents who lead are authoritarians and government by unelected bureaucrats is the height of democracy. Ever since Trump's first presidency, the British instigated coup against Trump has used lawfare in the courts against the president to paralyze the nation and preserve government by controlled experts. The ideology underlying this was invented by the Frankfurt School, a British-directed project which stated that Americans and American presidents have a genetic predisposition to the type of authoritarianism which gave rise to Hitler. This ideology, it's completely fake, permeates our law schools. Justice Jackson is a victim of this so-called social justice education and curriculum. She wrote in the decision on Friday that the courts have to check the unlawfulness, which is the dominant feature of Donald Trump's presidency, and not doing so is an invitation to tyranny. In a very unusual rebuke to a fellow justice, here's what Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote in response. We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. We only observe this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. This fight isn't over, but now the decisions of rogue judges will face quick and summary review in the Supreme Court. Finally, the British Second Socialist International comes for New York City. Zohran Mamdani, who won the Democratic nomination for NYC mayor on Tuesday, has been called a radical Muslim and a communist. But he's really much more a modern British Fabian socialist, and that's worse than either. He belongs, like Bernie Sanders, to the Democratic Socialists of America. In 1980, that group, then called the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee, or DSOC, and backed by a grant from the German Marshall Fund, set out to take over the Democratic Party using Eurosocialism and British Fabian socialist ideas. Today, they have largely succeeded. Just to give you a flavor for the German Marshall Fund, their Democracy Alliance ran much of the early propaganda and cyber operations for what became Russiagate against Trump and censorship of most of the dissenting views in the United States. Mamdani wants free everything. He wants to defund the police, expand rent control, put government-controlled grocery stores and food deserts throughout the city, and make the subway free. Each of these plans is destructive despite the free label. They will destroy capital for further housing development, bankrupt existing stores, and destroy a subway system which needs massive repair. Crime will soar as addicts and the mentally ill continue to live on the streets. His support comes from the rich and professional middle classes and idealistic but ignorant young people suffering from the fact that the soaring cost of living has made New York City unlivable. Blacks and the working class have seen this movie before and rejected Zohran Mamdani. But rather than doing the obvious and attacking this guy, why doesn't the Trump movement come up with a candidate and a plan for the city which can take New York City back in the November election? Why don't we plan to rebuild our cities as the vibrant and beautiful cities on the hill that our forefathers imagined and built? Why should our cities be victims of British socialist control? That's what we here at Promethean Action plan to propose and support. So there you have it. This week, Donald Trump didn't just make headlines, he delivered a series of strategic blows against the real foreign enemy that has quietly subverted our nations for decades, the British financial empire. He collapsed the forever war racket, forcing peace where they sowed chaos. He compelled the Supreme Court to support American presidential leadership, dismantling the key weapon of judicial insurrection. And in New York City, there is an unprecedented opportunity for us to reclaim our urban centers. This isn't just about politics, it's about taking our nation back. It's about restoring the America our forefathers envisioned, a nation of peace, prosperity, and true sovereignty. Now, for the first time in 50 years, the forces of empire are on the ropes. They're on their back foot. But the fight is hardly over. It requires patriots like you educating yourselves and supporting this fight. We are almost to our 1,000 paid member goal, just short of it. We need to rapidly expand now. Go to our website if you haven't already and become a paid subscriber. Please contribute as much as you possibly can if you appreciate these deep dives into the real nature of this war. Thanks for sticking around. Until next time, keep fighting for America.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.